What's up, Lexi Mob? It's Alexiana. Welcome back to my channel. Now, judging by that title, we're going to be talking about someone that I talked about a long time ago on this channel. We're going to be talking about none other than Kirsten Costas. Now, in a nutshell, with Kirsten Costas' case, it tells a story about a 15-year-old girl that died back in 1984 at the hands of her classmate, Bernadette Prodi. Now, actually, I talked about this case before on my channel and stuff like that, in which there's this podcast called Once Upon a Crime, in which they did an episode about this case and stuff, which I'm going to link down below, in which I remember I did like a review on the video, in which I'm going to link that down below as well, years ago, giving my little 2 cents as to what I think about the case and stuff like that. And I'm going to be talking about the case again, but only this time we're going to be getting into Kirsten Costas' mother, BERIT Costas. We're going to be getting into her thoughts. And obviously, I don't know what that lady's thinking because, duh, I'm not in her head. But if I can make an assumption as to what I think her thoughts might have been at that time, these are them. In a nutshell, like I said, if you don't know anything about the Kirsten Costas case, in a nutshell, it tells a story about a 15-year-old girl that died back in 1984 at the hands of her classmate, Bernadette Prodi. Now, if I could get into what I think Miss BERIT Costas' thoughts may have been back then, because like I said, I'm not in her head. I don't know what she's thinking verbatim, but if I can make an assumption like as to what I think her thoughts might have been, these are them. If I can make an assumption as to what I think her thoughts might have been, number one, if I can make an assumption, guilt. The reason I say guilt is because of this. Now, if you're familiar with the case, then you know that Bernadette Prodi, she had lured Kirsten out of the house and stuff like that with some phony invitation to some dinner and stuff like that the members of the Bobolinks, which was like a sorority-like group and stuff like that at Miramonte High School in Orinda, California back then. It was like some sorority-like high school group and stuff like that full of girls. She basically had lured Kirsten out of the safety of her home with some phony invitation saying that there was some secret dinner for the Bobbies and stuff, and she had to be ready at such and such time, and somebody to be there to pick her up. And the reason I say guilt is because if you're familiar with the story, then you know Kirsten Costas wasn't there to answer the phone because she was away at cheerleader camp. And BERIT Costas, she was there to answer the phone. And pretty much, BERIT Costas, she took it all down. There was some member of the Bobbies that was having some dinner, and they wanted Kirsten to be ready at such and such time and somebody to be there to pick her up and stuff like that. She took it all down, and when Kirsten had got back from cheerleader camp, she relayed the message to her daughter. And the reason I say guilt is because of this. Like, I'm pretty sure she probably questioned herself and was like, damn, like, why didn't I ask the right questions as to who was on the phone? Why didn't I do enough to protect my daughter? Like, had I would not have answered that phone call, or better yet, had I would not have relayed the message to Kirsten at all, she'd probably still be here today. And Mrs. BERIT Costas, if you're watching this video, or better yet, if any member of the Costas families are still living and stuff like that, if you're watching this video, just know, Mrs. BERIT Costas, I do not blame you not one bit for what happened to Kirsten. Because after all, who knew that was going to happen? Because at the time, Orinda was a squeaky clean town where nothing like that could ever happen. But then again, you can't put nothing past nobody. So, yeah, honey, like, I don't fault you not one bit. You didn't know the unthinkable was going to happen with your daughter. I did it. Nobody knew. It's just something that happened. But also, like, yeah, I feel like maybe she probably should have, asked the right questions as to, like, I feel like maybe she probably should have had asked the right questions and stuff like that as to, who's picking Kirsten up and all that kind of other stuff. And, to have the person on the other end, which was Bernadette, explain more about what was happening with the dinner and stuff like that, as opposed to just, taking it all down because I feel like had she would have done that stuff, then maybe Kirsten possibly still would have been here. But hey, like I said, who knew? Like, no one knew something like that was going to happen, because Kirsten, she did participate in a lot of stuff, not just the bobolinks and stuff like that. Because like I said, she was away at cheerleader camp when the call had came in. So, yeah, like, I'm pretty sure, BERIT Costas pretty much knew all of Kirsten's friends. And she probably thought, this was probably one of her friends, setting something up. And, she pretty much trusted that they were going to do the right thing and stuff and go to the dinner that actually was a lie, but like, who knew? Like I said. And number 2, mistrust. The reason I say mistrust is because, obviously, Kirsten died. She did not survive the attack and stuff like that. Bernadette probably, she had stabbed her. I don't know how many times, but she had stabbed her like with the big ass long 18-inch kitchen knife and stuff like that, and it severed some organs and stuff like that. Passed through her diaphragm, like lacerated her liver and nicked an artery. She bled out heavily and she died. And the reason why I say mistrust is like, Kirsten, she had a little brother. I think his name was Peter or something like that. And the reason I say mistrust is because, I'm going to be cautious of all of my son. Because, she had one child left, which was Kirsten's little brother, Peter. But now it's like, I'm going to be cautious of my son's friends because I don't want anything like this to happen again, I'm going to be cautious of my son. I'm going to be cautious of all my son's friends. I'm going to take proper precautions to protect him. If someone calls the house looking for him, I'm going to answer the right questions. Let's say if they invite him out to something, I'm going to ask the right questions, take the proper protocols, because I do not want this to happen again to the only child that I got left. So, yeah. I also feel like she has thoughts of mistrust, Because like I said, like, there was Kirsten, which was the oldest child, and her little brother Peter, which was the youngest child. With that being the only child she had left, like, I'm pretty sure sis took all the precautions necessary to make sure, like, none like that don't happen again, And number 3, the obvious one, heartache. Because Kirsten was so young. She was 15 years old. Sis had her whole life ahead of her. And it's just like, the Costas family never saw their daughter grow up, never saw her go to prom, never saw her graduate, go to college, get married, have kids, start a career. Because of what? Because some jealous ass classmate and whatnot that wanted to be her, that pretty much didn't fit in and stuff like that, like, over jealousy, like, what the fuck? And the sad part is and stuff, Bernadette Prodi, sis only spent like 9 years in prison and whatnot before she was released and stuff. She pretty much moved away, changed her name, and is living her life like nothing happened. She went on to have a family. She had a career. Hell, the Prodi family had pretty much got to be grandparents and stuff like that. And Bernadette pretty much went on to accomplish things, to do things that Kirsten never got to do. And also, like, the Costas family, they had moved to Hawaii and stuff like that. They had moved to Hawaii. They eventually, like, in the later years, had moved away to Hawaii and stuff, which I don't blame them because, like, my daughter was murdered in this neighborhood, and it pretty much hurts walking outside every day because knowing that my daughter was murdered in this neighborhood, like, I can't stand to live here. So let's just distance ourselves as far away from this area as possible, And also, let's get into some things. There's some holes in the Kirsten Costas story that I want to discuss. One, let's talk about, let us talk about what really happened in the car. Because, like I said, Bernadette, she had came to pick Kirsten up inside there for this supposed dinner, in which there was no dinner. She was actually taking Kirsten out to some party and stuff like that, in which, if there was a party happening at that time, I don't know. But yeah, allegedly, like, she pretty much was lured her out with some phone invitation to a dinner. Come to find out, she was taken into some party and stuff like that. And they were driving around for a bit and stuff like that. And Kirsten had Bernadette, allegedly, she had Bernadette pull over in a church parking lot so she could smoke some weed before they go to the party. Now, let me stop right there and let's talk about the weed thing. Now, could a 15-year-old girl at that time be smoking weed and hiding it from her friends and family? Of course. But if she did smoke weed, I highly doubt that she'll smoke weed with someone like Bernadette that she's really not cool with. Because Bernadette and Kirsten were part of the same crowd, but not really, And yeah, they really didn't know each other like that. So why on earth would Kirsten wanna, smoke weed with someone she's not really cool with? Like, that makes no sense. And let alone, autopsy reports revealed that they didn't find THC in her system. So, like, that makes no sense to me. And also, after the whole weed thing happened, so that they got into a little argument and stuff like that. And Kirsten, she got out of the car and stuff like that, and she went to her nearby neighbor's house and had told this man, I think his name was Arthur Hillman or something like that. She had pretty much knocked on his door and stuff like that and was like, "Hi, can you please take me home? Because my friend had got a little weird on me and I would like to go home," pretty much. "I like to use your phone so I can call my parents so I can go home because my friend had gone weird on me." And I highly doubt Kirsten will flip out just because Bernadette didn't want to smoke weed. Because, like I said, she was smoking weed allegedly and stuff like that. And she pretty much offered it over to Bernadette. And Bernadette had said no. And allegedly they had caused some argument. Kirsten flipped out. And yeah, she went over to Arthur Hillman's house saying that Bernadette had gone weird and she wanted to use his phone so she can go home. And obviously, this way before cell phones were invented. So what other choice would she have? She can't just, pull out a cell phone and call an Uber or anything like that, She pretty much had to go to her nearby neighbor's house and call her parents to come pick her up or use a payphone one, But anyways, I highly doubt, Kirsten would have flipped out because, Bernadette didn't want to smoke no weed and stuff. And there are a lot of reports that say that allegedly that Bernadette possibly made a pass at Kirsten, and that's why she flipped out, because she had said her friend had, quote unquote, gone weird on her. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a nosy ass bitch. If that was me and stuff, if I was Arthur Hillman, I ain't gonna lie, I kind of want to know. I'll be like, well, define gone weird, honey. Like, what did your friend do? Like, did she say something? Did she do something? Like, what happened? Because gone weird can mean so many things. Like, did she say something? Did she do something? Like, what did she do? Or what did she say? I have a feeling this is possibly what happened. I'm speculating here because obviously I wasn't there. If I can make an assumption as to what happened, I believe, yeah, she came and picked Kirsten up to go to this damn party, allegedly. And they were driving around and stuff like that, Maybe Kirsten wanted Bernadette to pull over in the church parking lot so she can smoke some weed. I don't know. But if I could make an assumption, she pulled over and stuff like that. Maybe Kirsten did have weed. Maybe she didn't. And also, one thing about Bernadette, like I said, Bernadette, her and Kirsten were a part of the same peer group and stuff like that, but they really weren't friends like that. And, Bernadette was so desperate to fit in back then and stuff like that. And allegedly, if Kirsten had weed, I believe Bernadette would have took it and stuff like that just because she was so desperate to be friends with Kirsten to get her approval. For what? I don't know. And I have a feeling, they pulled over in church parking lot allegedly so Kirsten could smoke weed and stuff. She offered to join over to Bernadette. Bernadette took it. Maybe probably took a little puffs of it and stuff like that. And, you know, maybe the THC was getting to her and stuff like that. And you never know. She probably tried to make a pass at Kirsten. And she probably tried to kiss on her or touch her cat or some shit like that. And Kirsten freaked out and went over to Arthur Hillman's house. Was like, hey, I need to use your phone, please. I'd like to go home because my friend had gone weird on me. And I have a feeling, you know, the reason why Bernadette killed her was because, you know, she probably thought, you know, she was going to tell everybody what happened and that'll ruin her reputation. So it's best to shut her up one way or another. Like if she's dead, she can't say nothing. So that's what I feel like happened. As far as the weed thing goes, I don't know because it's only one side of the story. Like when this case went to court, it was pretty much a one-sided story. You only hear Bernadette's side of things, and poor Kirsten, she's not here to give her side. So, yeah. Because we can only speculate as to what happened. Or, on the flip side of that, she picked Kirsten up. They were driving. Maybe Bernadette probably wanted to pull over in the church parking lot so they can talk. And maybe Bernadette possibly herself had weed and probably tried to offer it over to Kirsten and stuff like that. And Kirsten had said no. And maybe she probably took a little puff of the joint and stuff. Probably was getting horny off the THC and probably tried to make a pass at Kirsten. And Kirsten flipped out and went over to Arthur Hillman's house and said, hey, can I use your phone, please? I'd like to call my parents because my friend had gone weird on me. Like, there's so many scenarios here that could have happened. But hey, what do I know? And also, let's get into the knife. Like I said, Bernadette had used an 18-inch kitchen knife. She had used an 18-inch kitchen knife to kill Kirsten. And Bernadette had an older sister named Virginia, which they called Gina. And Gina had testified to court that she possibly herself may have left the knife in the car because, you know, she sometimes take it with her and stuff like that to cut up fruits and vegetables for her lunch. And I would like to make myself believe that maybe that is true because maybe, you know, she probably left it in the car under the assumption that she herself was going to be the only one to drive the car, not thinking that her baby sister was going to use it to do the unthinkable. So maybe she left it in the car, maybe she didn't, I don't know. And plus, who used a big-ass 18-inch knife to cut up fruits and vegetables? But hell, some people do, I don't know. But yeah, maybe that is true, maybe it's not. Or maybe Bernadette possibly herself possibly took it to possibly maybe scare Kirsten up some kind of way. I don't know, but I'm more so leaning toward the fact of maybe there's a strong possibility that her older sister Gina possibly did leave it in the car because she was under the assumption that she herself was going to be the only one to drive it, not knowing that her baby sister was going to do it to use it to do the unthinkable. So, I don't know. On one hand, I like to make myself believe that the sister left it in the car, but then again, I don't know. Plus, when it went to court, they had trouble proving that it was premeditated anyway, so, yeah. And I hate to say this, but Bernadette pretty much got away scot-free with the murder. She pretty much got away scot-free. Like, she only spent like 9 years in prison and stuff like that. She was released in like, what, 1992 or 3. And like I said, went on to have a regular life. She changed her name, got a career, got married, had kids, moved somewhere else, and went on like nothing happened. Someone's crawling on me. But just moved on with her life like nothing happened. And poor Kirsten's dead in the ground and never went on to do anything. And the difference between the Prati family and the difference between the Costas family is the Prati family can see their daughter anytime they want to. See their grandkids anytime they want to. But the Costas family is not so lucky. Those are tears and grief with the Costas family. Those are tears and grief. They grieve forever because their daughter was taken away from them too soon over something so stupid. And to all the young kids out here that are watching this video, if you're in high school, talk to your parents. Do not be afraid to talk to your parents about anything, because there is nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, on the face of this earth that you can tell them that they won't understand, because they were once young ones. They can possibly relate to it. I used to think the same thing about my dad. I used to think the same thing about my dad. Oh, you don't understand. You never understand. But my dad does understand, because he was once young himself. He does get it. He does understand. Same thing with my mom. They do get it. They do understand. All you have to do is just bump the gums. Talk. Talk to your parents about anything that you're going through. And I guarantee you they'll understand. And I feel like if Bernadette had did that, even though her parents were much older and stuff like that, I have a feeling that they'll understand what she's going through and, you know, pretty much help her out in any way that they see fit and stuff like that. And maybe, just maybe, what happened never would have happened had she would have opened her mouth and talked about what she was feeling, you know, her insecurities, how she felt at school, about Kirsten, like all that stuff. And also, let me say this. If you're watching this and you're in high school is nothing. High school is nothing, sweetheart. It's nothing. Because once you graduate, it's not going to matter. Everybody going, because it's like this. Once you graduate, take one good look around. Because that is the last time y'all all going to be together. And then you're going to separate. You're all going to go your separate ways. You're all going to go on living your own lives. Like, it's not going to matter. Like, you think when you go out looking for a job, they're going to ask if you was homecoming king or queen, if you were in the honors classes, if you got all the girls in school, if you got all the guys in school, if you were a nerd. Like, no, they don't care about that. Like, we in the grown-up world, all they care about is your work ethic. Like, high school is nothing, because once you graduate, that's the last time y'all all are going to be together. And then you're going to separate and live your own lives. So it really doesn't matter, honey. Being popular, being a part of like a sorority-like group, all that shit is not going to matter, honey, in the real world. Because in the real world, hey, we're all adults. We got our own shit going on. None of that stuff is going to matter. Because everybody's off doing their own thing. So the best advice that I can give y'all, keep your head up, keep your grades straight, and just focus on the main goal, which is graduation. That's the only thing you need to be worried about. Being popular, having all the boys, the girls, being homecoming king or queen, doesn't matter. What matters is that you keeping your grades up and you graduating. That is the only thing. And if you're feeling the same way Bernadette probably may have felt back in the day, talk to your parents, or better yet, talk to the guidance counselor or talk to the principal in school, because that's what they're there for, to help you. So yeah, I feel like I said all I needed to say and stuff like that. I hope this video made sense. I felt like I was rambling, but whatever. That's just about it for this video. Like always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to insert my social media handles over here as well in the description box down below. So till next time, peace out, bitches.